to List Off. I'm Ossie.
And I'm Nat. And this week we'll be counting down our top 5 fictional invertebrates.
Right. And this is so my daughter, my youngest daughter, who's 4, said, "Can you do top 5 mini beasts?" And I was like, "No." Yeah.
I was unfamiliar with the term mini beast. I think it's a modern
primary school thing. So instead of just doing insects, you include like slugs and snails, basically, and spiders. And because I've always been doing insects. Oh, it doesn't include spiders, and you go, yeah, it does. I mean, it doesn't, but it's like the tomato vegetable thing again.
Exactly.
And so mini beast is a way of saying we'll just do all the little things that we can have in the classroom.
Yeah. It's a great word as well, mini beasts, I think.
But
well done.
When we
well
looked
done,
it up,
primary schools.
when we looked it up, we found that it was quite poorly defined, really, as it's not a scientific term, because it's just saying,
oh no,
it was just invertebrates that are small. And where do you draw the line? So instead, we decided to do invertebrates, and then we said, let's do fictional invertebrates.
Yeah,
but it was a bit of a, excuse the joke, can of worms for me.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of invertebrates.
Oh yeah, there's loads of invertebrates.
I mean, it's half the animals in the world or something, more than half.
Sure. Fictional mollusks might have been quite good. We've done, so it can be quite far, but it was like, I think it gives you, or gave me certainly quite a neat, I mean, a lot of mine could be fictional mini beasts as well. It's, would that be a 1? I would say probably is arguably a mini beast, but you'll find out about that soon.
One of mine's huge, but and 2 of mine are huge actually. But I mean, you didn't lose a lot by you didn't gain a lot by expanding beyond mini beasts. I thought I'd have loads of. I'll tell you at the end, but there's a couple of animals I was like, I'm totally going to have them in. And if it was just top 5 invertebrates, I mean, I just want to say I'd be octopus number 1 all day long. But fictional octopi just don't quite cut it for me. So the list was a surprise to me in a way. So
discovered something about yourself.
Yep, I think so. But I reckon there's millions of these, and I'm sure given more time and thought, you could think of some really good ones. If anyone has a favourite fictional sponge worm, I'd love to hear about it.
I don't know. I hope none of mine are too controversial, but I'm pleased with my answers. Who's going to start?
I think I'll start us off. My number 5 is huge. It's Mothra, the giant kaiju moth or moth larvae from the Godzilla movies. Second only to Godzilla in total number of movie appearances. It's generally a she, is accompanied by 2 singing twins who are tiny, and they sing, and she comes, they sing Mothra, and then she comes and rescues them. But when I say rescues them, she just blows the whole city away. She just flaps her wings and it makes everything disappear. And she makes a really cool noise when she's flying around. She's not so cool when she's in her larvae form. That's weird. She just does a kind of invisible laser from her little incisors or whatever they are, the little weird mouth things. Not a very big fan of larvae, grubs. I find them really scary and creepy. So I definitely prefer Mothra when she's flying around with her wings.
I always think I like Godzilla and the sort of Monster Island characters in the same way. Like, I feel like I'm a real casual about it.
Right, yeah.
Like, in a way that a lot of people like stuff now, and you go, you don't really like that, but I guess you've got a t-shirt or whatever. I really love all of the concepts of it. And I get really excited when I see clips and I go, that seems really cool. All the monster designs I think are great. Love the idea of Godzilla. Always kind of look forward to it. Whenever I watch a Godzilla movie, I get bored.
Yeah.
I have this thing where I go like, and you go, these are like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And the plots are much more like, someone's come from the future. There's some people from the future who have come. And it's like, wait, why does this impact when the 2 guys are going to have a fight?
Yeah,
I love his fire breathing
I
and
like
stuff,
the
like
issue
the
of,
casual.
I like the 50s, 60s, the early ones, and then the 70s ones, which are the real fan ones, the real schlocky ones, 70s and 80s ones.
Yeah.
I find them a bit, they're too boring. They're too boring. And
And I don't know, I really have tried with them, but like, and I love the, because also there's so much about it which I just go, it looks like it's so much up my street.
I think rather than sit down and watch one, I liked it best when you won't have the same experience. But like you could often go to like a hip hop club or something in the late 90s, and there'd be a DJ playing some tunes, and everybody be dancing, or more likely everybody be standing around the wall, and a couple of people be dancing. But on the screen behind, they'd be showing like, you know, yeah, King of Monsters, or they'd be showing like Megalon or something, King
Yeah.
Ghidorah.
I mean, that's kind of what you want, I think.
Yeah, and then it's great. It's like there's this cool visuals, but every time you look around, there's something cool happening on the screen. And if there's not, you just turn back around and keep chatting to your friend or whatever, and
Mm.
listening to the music. But it's just they're incredible visually, but the music in them is
Mm.
fantastic. That's the other thing. I've got like Godzilla film soundtracks, and the best ofs that they did in Japan are just fantastic. There's so many great bits of I've forgotten the name of the composer, bollocks. Fantastic music, and Mothra has a good theme that comes back, and I love that about those films is that they reprise these themes for decades. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And they it's frustrating to me that you get something like Batman, right? And then you have like the 60s Batman tune, and then you have the Danny Elfman Batman with the Tim Burton one's theme tune, and now they
Mm.
have new Batman theme tunes, and it's like, what, you haven't settled on a Batman tune for all that time? Whereas in Godzilla, it's like, oh, here comes King Ghidorah. We'll play the King Ghidorah theme. You know, of course it should be that. That's how you. It's like, Star Wars has got it figured out. They'll be like, oh, we're making some allusion to Darth Vader or to Anakin Skywalker, so it'll be like a bit of the Imperial March. And they'll just throw that in a little bit. That's what Godzilla series does brilliantly, and so many other series totally fail to do.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Godzilla as much as the next man, but I feel like I like Godzilla as much as the next man.
Yeah,
It's
not
like,
not
it's
the
like,
big
oh
fans.
yeah, like, yeah, I'm not a big fan. I couldn't claim Godzilla, but I really like it. Not to say I wouldn't, it's the kind of thing I'd probably be like when people have band t-shirts for things that bands that they don't really like or whatever.
Yeah,
It's that sort of thing with me where I could happily have a Godzilla t-shirt and go, like Godzilla.
yeah.
I like the whole culture of it.
But
But when I go, oh, I'm gonna watch this film, then I'll be like, after 20 minutes, I'm kind of bored.
it's used equivalent of the kid in the Primark Ramones shirt.
Exactly that with me.
So while we're talking
But I
about
respect it.
invertebrates and the Godzilla films, also Megalon is a big beetle, really funny
Oh,
looking,
of course, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, Megalon should be mentioned here as well. But Mothra, it's hilarious. A giant moth, that's hilarious. You know, it's and she really is one of the biggest ones. And I saw a thing saying that she was the most popular character with women in Japan
Right.
from polling, because they were like, oh yeah, she's a female one. So I like that, even when it's a giant city destroying moth. It's like, yeah,
Oh, and it's a great visual.
representation.
Great visual.
Yeah, it's great visual. A silk moth, if anyone's keeping track, that's roughly what Mothra is. I think we should bring in the real invertebrates.
Of course, yeah, yeah. My number 5 is Squidly Diddly, the Hanna-Barbera character Squidly Diddly, who, by his name, suggests a squid, but definitely appears to be an octopus.
Yeah, I think so.
And an octopus, as we were saying, isn't technically like a mini beast, but it'd still be an invertebrate. So either way,
King of
yeah,
invertebrates.
yeah, very much in that way he is. And Squidly Diddly is a musical octopus. He plays various instruments, probably most famous for playing the drums with multiple sticks and drum kits.
Yeah.
He is part of the Hanna-Barbera stable in the cartoons. His cartoon, apparently, this is in the States. I don't know if this necessarily was the same here, was part of the Atamant Secret Squirrel Show. So he was like a segment in it.
Yeah.
I think we got some of those separate. I don't remember those so much, but I remember
I don't put them together
Squidly
in my head.
Diddlies. Yeah. And he lived in Bubble Land. That's like a sort of sea park. And the idea that's kind of weird about it now is that he's captive. He don't want to be there. It's it's the 60s. He wants to be a famous musician. He wants to
Yeah,
be like he wants to be in the Beatles or
yeah,
something. He wants to join a band. So his thing is he wants to escape the sea park. But the tragedy of Squidly Diddly is that people are scared of him. So when he escapes, he's an escaped octopus. People are scared, and often he will return to Bubble. He will put himself back into captivity rather than face the fears of man, who is probably the greatest enemy of all,
yeah.
famously.
He's got kind of
Man.
Stockholm syndrome.
He hasn't, he's like one of those, he's one of those characters, I think I think 'cause he's got such a nice visual. I think he kind of stays with you more than a lot of the Hanna-Barbera
Yeah,
guys.
because I don't think they used him later. Like, whereas Atamant, who I don't remember really seeing his own cartoons, but he was in Yogi's Treasure Hunt years later.
Yeah, yeah. Like he has shown up, but often in like guest appearances.
Yeah.
But he has been in. He was his original series 65, 66. Then he was in Yogi's Gang 1973, which is one I don't remember at all.
No.
Yogi's Treasure Hunt 1985. He appeared in. He appeared in 1991's Yo Yogi. I don't remember that. I don't know if he got
Sounds
those.
of its time.
Yeah. He was in Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, in an episode of that. He cameoed in an episode of Wacky Races. He is appearing in the upcoming cartoon Jellystone, which hasn't started yet, and apparently he's in the 2020 film Scoob, which I think is a CGI Scooby Doo film, where Bubble Land is promoted in quite a nice kind of world building way, in lots of kind of on like billboards and
Oh,
things.
nice. That's
So
nice.
it's sort of he's sort of cameoed in that
That's
as
nice.
if Bubble Land is, but tragically it does mean he has been in captivity now for 60 odd years. So there is a tragedy element to it. And he had Chief Winchley, who I guess is the kind of Officer Dibble antagonist to him, is always trying to get him back. But essentially it's almost like a Free Willy story. He's just trying to, he don't want to be in like the sort of Sea World type place. He wants to get out. He's not treated badly, but he just wants to go out and play some instruments somewhere.
If you were going to make it into a live action movie like Free Willy, you'd have to call it 8 Willy.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm never going to Google Yogi's Gang. I'm just going to imagine it's a 70s gang film.
Like the Warriors.
Like the Warriors, but with Hanna-Barbera characters. Like, and they're all the different ones are in different gangs, and they all meet up and have scraps in like Central Park. That's what I would imagine. Brilliant.
I'd watch the heck out of that.
I like Squidly Diddly much more than his brother P Diddley, the rap mogul, as well.
Perhaps in a modern version of that, they would probably have a P Diddley character who's also working in the music industry.
Yep.
Writes itself.
Yeah.
Or if anyone wants me to write a Squidly Diddly cartoon, I'll
Squidly
take
Diddly
that. I'll take
movie.
that check. Yeah. I'd
Yeah.
write the Squidly Diddly movie all day long.
Yep. My number 4 is Heimlich. Heimlich is the very corpulent German caterpillar from A Bug's Life.
Right.
Who he just eats all the food, and he's huge, and he's like a like a hilarious fat German character, which is a stereotype that is in a lot of American films, especially. I don't feel like we have that stereotype over here. We have other stereotypes for Germans.
Yeah, but I guess you got Augustus Gloop, haven't we? And that's Roald Dahl, so I guess that's he's in the movies, but I guess that's an English. So maybe it's like an old stereotype that's become outdated.
Yeah, maybe, but like he's a funny character. He's always saying how he's going to become a butterfly, and then at the very end of the film, spoilers, he does go in a cocoon, come out. He's exactly the same, but he sprouts 2 tiny wings off his back, and to make him feel like he's really a beautiful butterfly, the other characters all pick the flying ones, pick him up and make him fly while he flaps his wings. And they go, "It's almost like you're flying." And he goes, "I am flying. And from here, you look like ants," which is one of the best lines in the film because they are ants. And yeah, he's a good character. He also makes cameos in a number of other Pixar films. Just like very small cameos. He's in like Toy Story 2 on a blade of grass when they're like pushing through some overgrowth, and he's like there like tiny. Yeah, I think he's
lovely.
I think he's in a few. Great stupid cartoon character with stereotype, but by far my favorite caterpillar, I think. From wow, is that true? Very hungry caterpillar. That's good caterpillar. True? I don't know.
Sure.
Heimlich, he's good. Number 4.
My number 4 is the very hungry caterpillar.
No way.
You betcha.
Oh, that's great.
Again, because it's a great visual. Again, a caterpillar who likes to eat loads of food. Why does he want to eat all this food? Because he wants to cocoon himself and become a caterpillar.
No, become a butterfly.
And illustrated. But become a butterfly, sorry, yeah, of course. Written and illustrated by Eric Carle, 1969. Such an incredible looking book. It's what, like, you know, it's something that appeals to my childlike eye. It's one of those things where often you can get very designy books and they look great. And as an adult, you go, "Oh, wicked book. Oh, I love that book. Oh, it looks so great." But you kind of know in your heart of hearts, if you go to a kid, they probably would be like, "Oh, it kind of looks a bit weird. Doesn't necessarily appeal to me."
Yeah.
Whereas I think there's something about that style which works both graphically as a piece of design, and it also totally works for you as a kid. And the whole way the book was put together, that he had the idea that he wanted to have the holes in the pages and things, and at the time no one could do it, and so they had to be printed in Japan initially, just to go, like, they were like, "Yeah, we can do this," which often seems that I think in lots of kind of printmaking, it does seem to be that the Japanese are kind of miles ahead.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Sure, we can just do that. We can do anything." Yeah, I just think it's one of those kind of wonderful, and again, one that I think was sort of, there was that kind of thing, wasn't there, a few years ago, where was it George W. Bush said it was his favorite book and everyone laughed at him. And I remember going, I mean, it's a pretty good book though, to be fair.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it's a kid's book and it was used to knock him, but you go, I mean, to be fair, it's a pretty good book. And it's, you know, again, it has that very sort of sweet children's book. It's a genuine classic and is about something.
Yeah.
And has that, you know, and as well as that, it also has, you know, a big caterpillar going, you know, eating a whole apple or whatever, going through an apple, and it's that, and the various kind of things they've put on it. It's one of those things as well that I always think adapts very well to merch. When you see merch, I always go, I do like the look of that. Very hungry caterpillar.
It's you know, it's in every bookshop still. You know, there's a few books that are going to always be carried in all bookshops, pretty much. You know, and that's of the kids' books, and that's absolutely one of them. And you know, Eric Carle did loads of books. We've got a few of his other books and stuff, and they all have that same look, and he's very good at it. But that's where he hit the jackpot. You know what I mean? I think you're right. The die cut holes and stuff is fantastic. When you're a little kid, you can wiggle your finger through them. You know, and also
it's that kind of
flipping it around.
Kids through the pages.
Kids love turning the pages. You know, you can get it as a board book. So that you can't destroy it when they're really little, and when they just really like turning the pages, and they have the, you know, the shorter pages in the middle, so that on the page where he eats through everything, you know, and that I always found that page where he eats all the crazy stuff, you know, he eats some fruit, you know, whatever, 4 plums, whatever it is, and he goes up through them, and then he has the page where he eats like a sausage, a lollipop, a piece of pie, all those things. They always look like so tasty. You know, they were like, he just drew them. So you'd be like, yeah, I want to eat a hole in a lollipop and a piece of pie. And it's like one of those books that's just solid in your mind. You know what I mean? Like all the things are, it's very stylized, but they're also totally real.
Yeah. And sort of like revolutionary as well. That kind of, they have the idea like, I want holes in it. We can't really do that. We'll just find a way to make it work. We'll just work out how we make this book. It's like, and like, so also like as an object, it's that thing again where when people in the era of Kindles and things, and now I think bookshops. I was talking about this to someone last night. That it's almost like all books now, like a standard book, kind of looks pretty. All books are almost made to be presents. So like a hardback now is always kind of going to look nice because they know it has to be an object to work against people that would rather have it on a Kindle.
Right, because the people who have no aesthetic interest in it are just going to get the Kindle version, right? So they're not a market anymore. The only people that are buying physical objects like that are the people that want a nice one. So you can't put out your crap looking one anymore. It's not a thing.
Yeah, and I think it's actually been a real boom for bookshops, and often it makes that thing really pretty where you just go, oh, that's a nice idea.
Yeah.
There's a thing where you just buy an edition of something because it's got a nice cover or something. Go, oh yeah, well I like that. They have different illustrators. They reissue things with different covers now, and it's that kind of it's books like that really kind of create those kind of markets. And I think things like, certainly people were aware of it in working in bookshops for years, that there is something about the aesthetic now that does seem to be trying to counter that. And I think it's great, and it makes it, it's another nice thing why you all visit a bookshop, because you like to pick up nice objects and have a look at it. There's a thing I got a thing they published recently that was 1984, but it's nice, and you pick it up. It's a Penguin classic, so you've got the orange band, but it's George Orwell, but every time it's got the title, it's blacked out.
It's redacted, yeah.
Or redacted. And you go, nice. You know what book it is, and it doesn't tell you. Great idea.
Yeah,
it's just that stuff like that. It just feels like publishers have had to up their game.
Yeah,
and good. And I think it's books like Very Hungry Caterpillar that really kind of are the sort of pioneers.
Yeah, they'll push things forward by like 5-10 years, whereas things inch forward, and then you get big books like that just push it forward. Great stuff. Great Caterpillar. Great butterfly too. It's a very nice butterfly when it turns into a butterfly. Lovely.
Yeah.
My kids just always loved that last page. He'd become a beautiful butterfly. It's like, and the trick to becoming a beautiful butterfly was just eating some nice plain leaves. Do you remember? That was the trick. So it's a message about gluttony, which we could probably take something from. My number 3 is Charlotte A. Kavatica from Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Now, I had Charlotte's Web read to me as a kid with my sister. Would have read it to us, and then I saw the animated film. They've done another one since, but I mean, there's sort of like 80s, cell animation one, which is not a spectacular film, but it's nice enough, and that sticks in my mind. But I'm a big fan of kids' books, kids' stories that deal with serious and tricky issues and stuff. And I think Charlotte's Web is one of the absolute best books for kids about death and life cycles, and the way that this spider looks after the pig, and then he kind of grows up and is able to then, when she dies, which she's very sanguine about, look after, keep an eye on her many babies that hatch from her nest. Yeah, it's really touching. I think it's one of the books that makes kids cry, but it's coming, because there's a sort of sadness and because the pig is ruminating on death all the time and being turned into sausages and bacon and stuff. I guess it's one of those kind of like vegetarian conversion books in a way, but it's not just about that, because it's the spider that dies, and it's good stuff.
I would say it's probably a good time to say my number 3 is also Charlotte A. Calvetica, for exactly the same reason. I think it's a book that really pulls on the heartstrings. Everything about it is kind of there's a real sense of threat in the whole book.
Yeah, really.
And there's an idea of like, it starts off where Wilbur is the runt, and he's a tiny, he's an animal who might not live, and it's that sort of, he might not make it, he makes it, and then then as soon as he kind of gets big enough, he's like, "Oh, you're big enough now. We could probably like kill you then."
Yeah.
So there's like the threat of death is like a specter over the whole thing, and it does teach kids about death. I think a lot of it isn't. I don't know if it's, but maybe you're right. Maybe it is. I never thought of it as like a thing that's sort of vegetarian, kind of almost pushing that idea. I thought that part of the idea that he might be bred to die is almost part of. There's a kind of element to it which is really, it's really on the nose. It's really saying sausages. That's that pig. Death is, and it's partly Charlotte, who's a character who is saying you are going to die.
Yeah.
But it might not be like, and her job is almost to be like that you're not going to die tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, I think it's sort of about celebrating life.
Yeah.
By having a specter of death, by saying you're going to be alive today and you're going to be alive tomorrow, and I'm going to help you do that. And it is incredibly sad, like at the end when, but it is that she's kind of accepted it, and she's telling him on the things, and she's eating flies and saying the fly's dead.
Yeah.
You know, I've killed the fly. You know, I'm eating the fly. Things have to die to for things to live, and it's that sort of. So I don't think of it necessarily as like a vegetarian thing. It's almost like it's almost like get used to it, kids.
Yeah, and
people die.
Yeah, it's such a strong thing, because but in the last year, my eldest, who's 6, she about a year ago, she was talking about death, and she was sort of, we were talking about old people dying and stuff, and she was kind of like, so, I think she said, so would Granny and Gramps die, sort of thing, and I was like, yeah, they'll die, we'll all die, you don't want to bullshit them, so she and she was like, will you die? And I was like, yeah, I'll die one day, I was like, hopefully after a long life, sort of thing. She was like, and then you could just see her face go, and she went, and her voice cracked, and she had a little tear coming then, like her bottom lip went, and she went, will I die? And I was like, yeah, you will. But the thing is, you're going to live first, it's the living. That's the thing,
I think that's it. I think Wilbur's so afraid of the concept of death that he's not living. And the other tragic thing is, in the spiders, when Charlotte's kind of eggs hatch, that a lot of them just run away.
Yeah.
They're not interested in staying in a barn. But there'll always, as it says, there's always some of the spiders, sometimes their children, some of them always go away, but some of them will always stay in a barn. So he's always going to have someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Great book. Great book. The film's good as well. Well, certainly I haven't seen the film for years. Hanna-Barbera doesn't suggest that the animation is super great, but certainly I do remember that film had certainly had a big sort of impact on me as well. I like when things like some pig. I always just find that kind of some pig always makes me laugh as a thing. It's a kind of thing that that feels like it's a nice thing. Like it'd be like if I do another show for Edinburgh, some pig would make a list of like that's a good name for a thing.
Good title.
Some pig.
Because the guy, even Wright, that wrote it, he also wrote Stuart Little. I mean, this is a seriously successful children's author. Incredible, really. Just to come up with 2 stories, like it's bonkers.
Yeah, great one. Great invertebrate.
Top invertebrate. My number 2 is another spider. But whereas Charlotte is a lovely, benevolent spider who teaches life lessons to a slightly morbidly obsessed pig, my number 2 is probably the most horrifying character to me in all of the works of Funtime guy J.R.R. Tolkien. Is Ungoliant. Ungoliant the spider. And so Ungoliant is in the Silmarillion. So, for all the people that read the Silmarillion, they'll be going, yeah, all two of them. She's like she's the mother of Shelob, the spider in Lord of the Rings, but she's like as older than the world, and her name is Sindarin for dark spider, but she's like a force of darkness. She can like suck the light out of things. She exudes darkness. Everywhere she goes, there's darkness pervading the world. She's just it's this horrific, huge spider, like like the size of a house, bigger, and all the descriptions are horrible. And she kind of makes pacts with Melkor, who becomes Morgoth, the kind of ultimate bad guy, who's like Sauron, the bad guy in Lord of the Rings, is just like he was just a little minor underling of Morgoth, and she's like goes toe to toe with Morgoth. She attacks him, and he betrays her, and so she attacks him, and she just eats stuff up. She's absolutely horrible. And one thing Tolkien's great at is descriptions, and his descriptions of her are horrible. And but it's such a great character, because I am a bit scared of spiders. Like, I'm not a big fan. I will do spider duty around the house. I put the spiders out, but I'd rather not. Like, I'm not a fan. I do find them scary.
But you do put them out, which shows something. I'd probably, I'd probably kill a spider.
I've killed spiders. I'm just saying, like, I'll put it out if it's.
I'm not saying. I'm not.
I'll do both. But, what I mean is, I'll take responsibility for spiders. When they need to be had. A spider in the bath, kids' bath time. I'm on the case, but big spiders, Australian spiders, count me out.
Oh yeah.
No.
Oh yeah.
And I think this. So if you're gonna make a character to scare me, a spider is a good one. So okay. Yeah, Ungoliant.
When you say she's older than the Earth, is she actually older than the middle? Is that she's there first before the forming of the?
No, she's older than the Earth, but I think she's one of the few characters who are they're kind of written as being like there before everything, before everything was made. There's a kind of force.
Okay.
And
an elemental character.
And like, I've just got a little passage here. I'm not going to read the whole passage, but he says, like, he describes the unlight of Ungoliant. I like that. And I have really pictures of this colossal spider. She eats up all these important things from the book as well. They have these trees that are important, and these Silmarils that are important, all these things. She just eats them all and becomes bigger and more horrible. And then eventually she's so hungry, and her hunger just grows and grows to the point where she devours herself.
Oh, lovely end.
It's just a horrible character. I'm not a big horror person, but to me, like, as a Tolkien fan and stuff, Ungoliant is like the most malevolent force in not Middle Earth, in Arda, the whole, not just Middle Earth, the whole of the Earth, because just for the nerds out there.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that Middle-earth. I suppose it'd have to exist in some sort of solar system or universe.
No, Middle-earth is just the middle bit of the planet.
Oh, is that a planet?
It's not even the whole.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Arda's the whole of the It's not even an Earth, because it's a flat disc. Anyway, it's just this is serious nerd stuff. I don't want to put this on you.
Sure.
You're better off not knowing this stuff.
But it's already a deep cut.
Yeah, it's a deep cut.
When I say that, there's probably some nerds going, not really. They'll be trying to be.
Fans know.
Yeah. My number 2 is Rock Lobster from the B-52 song Rock Lobster. He's a rock lobster.
Is he definitely fictional?
Well, yeah, because I was like, I was trying to look up things, and that came, and I went, no. And part of the reason he's on the list so high, or she, is because I sort of thought, no, it isn't. But then the more you think about it, I was going, I guess it is.
It's not.
I guess Rock Lobster.
Yeah.
It's like, they list fictional and real marine life that appears on the beach there. And there's dogfish and catfish, and they're real things. But mainly it's about the rock lobster. So they are talking about a rock lobster. And we don't know. We're left to kind of interpret in our own minds what the rock lobster looks like. We describe, but it also has things. It has narwhals, real piranhas, real bikini whale. As mentioned, we don't know what that looks like, but I presume a whale in a bikini. It's a funny idea, and um, and I like the song Rock Lobster. I think it's a good song.
Does it
It's a
tell us
fun.
anything about the rock lobster?
No, it just says it's there basically, and where it's kind of popping up. You don't get a big backstory for it. It was their it was a B-52 single. It was also on their debut album. Apparently, John Lennon loved it so much and thought it sounded like something Yoko Ono would do. And apparently, it feels like a big claim here that hearing the song on the radio made him uh, record the Double Fantasy album. Because he was like, yeah, that's the kind of thing we could do. We could do a thing like Rock Lobster, but then did an album that was absolutely nothing like that. And absolutely nothing at all like that, and was probably really sort of saccharine kind of thing, and didn't do what he set out to do at all. Absolutely failed Lennon in trying to do something that was like Rock Lobster. If that was the idea of what that was meant to be like, he didn't achieve it at all.
I like rock lobster. I think it's good.
A lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Because Love Shack is one of my least favorite songs in the world, and I like to console myself with the fact that I like rock lobster. You know, it's the early stuff is quite good. It's still annoying, but it's like it's a good sort of arch annoying. You know,
Yeah.
whereas
it's kitsch and knowingly kitsch.
Yeah.
And that's something which there was like we probably had 12 years of when things were knowingly kitsch. And now people don't know what is and what isn't anymore.
No.
And I think it's sullied now. It doesn't really like that kind of kitsch culture doesn't really exist now because it's like people don't really get it. No, all these things don't really I don't know. It's all sort of bled into
We're post kitsch.
real life. We're post kitsch.
Yeah, can't be
Post
done.
kitsch. Can't exist now.
Not
Can't exist now.
I've just had an idea that we might have the same number one. I think it's possible.
We might have the same number one.
It's possible.
I think it is possible.
But there's a lot of invertebrates in the world, so you never know.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, with so many invertebrates, it's always fun when we get some crossover.
We've got a crossover.
We've already had some crossover. They've been dovetailing. We've had caterpillars. We've gone for the same kind of things.
I've got moth, caterpillar, spider, and my number one is a worm. Sounds like it's not a crossover. My number one is lowly worm, the worm from Richard Scarry's books. Very much the hero of the Richard Scarry books, and just remember getting those huge Richard Scarry books as a kid, and with so much going on a page in busy town, you'd always be looking for lowly worm. That was the thing you'd be looking for. Like, where's lowly worm? What's he doing? And he'd be doing something great. He was a real heroic character. This is a worm. He has no limbs, you know, and he'd still be managing to like rescue someone by wrapping himself around them or throwing a life ring, and he'd be climbing up a lamppost to fix the broken lamppost, and he'd be being a policeman on the next page and just doing everything. And you know, you'd be hanging out with Hucklecat or whoever, but lowly worm was where it was at. And yeah, I think me and my sister would just be like, I think we'd call those books lowly worm books. Like, I want to read lowly worm. I want to look at lowly worm. It was just a proper hero, and to do that with a worm, it's quite an achievement. I got a couple of worm facts for you as well. It's going to blow your mind.
Oh yeah.
Worms vary in size from microscopic to over 1 meter in length. For marine polychaete worms, bristle worms, but check this out: 6.7 meters in length for the African giant earthworm. There's a giant earthworm that's 6.7 meters long. But check this out, right? The marine Nemertean worm or bootlace worm can be up to 58 meters long.
Oh no, that is mind blowing.
58. So that's longer than a blue whale by a long way. Worms. Crazy. If you search for worms, the first thing that comes up is not the Wikipedia page for worms. It's an NHS information page about if you've got worms.
I think that's good.
The same is
I
true
think
for
that's
crabs.
Google doing their job.
The same is true for crabs. The second result is Wikipedia page crabs. The first is NHS page for pubic lice. So
yeah. Do you know what? I reckon more people do a Google on crabs and worms, hoping to get to the NHS page, than they do just wanting to have a look at some
not
worm
me.
facts on
I am
Wikipedia.
very proudly looking up invertebrates, not STDs or bum problems. So, you know.
Just in case anyone was questioning that.
Yeah, if you're looking through my Google history and you're like, ha ha, he looked at worms and crabs in the same day. What a loser.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because I have invertebrates.
Yeah. We're looking up. Honestly, we're looking up fictional invertebrates so we could do a podcast YouTube series about our top 5 favorite fictional invertebrates.
Mr. Metcalf.
That's what happened.
Do you really
what happened.
Do you really expect anyone to believe this story? It's not plausible.
No, great. I had a weird with this Richard Scarry books. It's such a weird thing that I had them as a kid. I loved them. I wasn't aware that other people had them. I had one of those weird things where I thought they were so much like a thing that I had and no one else knew about. It was like later in life when it sort of blew my mind that other people knew what they were. I wasn't really aware. I think in like a few years ago, wasn't there like an animated series or something? Yeah. But as a kid, I wasn't really even aware that other people knew.
They weren't like merchandised or anything much when we were. I think they were more in the early 70s and stuff.
I had one that was called Richard Scarry Omnibus.
Yeah.
And it was all the characters on a bus. And so like that word was like the more you go, oh, like omnibus. The EastEnders omnibus, like omnibus.
Yeah.
The word omnibus was a big word for me growing up. I like it, and it's a very pleasing, still a pleasing word. Omnibus.
It's a nice.
Omnibus.
It's nice to think that my dad used to take the omnibus to school sometimes. You know, that kind of thing. Like when it really was an omnibus as well. Yeah, great. No, I think Richard Scarry is amazing. I remember my sister's got like a lowly worm. I think it's an apple on wheels with him coming out of it or something. So it was like a toy they did, and they did that about 20 years ago, and that was like the first time we'd seen anything merchandised from it. And she was like, "I've got to have that," and she still always has it around. You know, I think she's just moved house. I think it's definitely would have gone with taking a pride of place. It's just, I don't know, they're special books, and as an adult reading them with kids, it's like, this is really boring. I don't want to read you the story. You're just supposed to look at the pictures, and they're like, what does this say? What does this say? What does this say? Because everything's labeled. It's a good book to have learnt to read before you get really into it as well. But then you're less into it. I don't know. It's tricky. But
you're right. It's more like, it's all definitely illustration that I like about it. I can't remember the stories at all, but like it is like they're great. They're great illustrations. Really pleasing.
Yeah, and it's got this weird thing because I think he's Swiss or Austrian. He's Austrian and then moved to America. So it has this real Americanness about it, but some of the drawings are really European looking, and he has like windmills and kind of very European buildings. And
there's often like traditional kind of like Swiss dress and things in it, or like
exactly. So it's
all that kind of stuff.
It's got a very international sort of feel to it. You know, it's no one particular place, and it's
and obviously something my mum was really keen on as well. Like, she was obviously like, this is the good stuff, because I remember she would buy lots of scary stuff for my niece and things. That kind of So it was obviously something that was like known as a kind of this is the stuff.
Yeah,
and that made me think. I guess this would have been something I was really into as well. It makes sense.
And it's full of factual stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like full of like and there's the barber, and next to the barber is the baker, and then next to that is the shoemaker, and like you know, every page is full of information, and there's definite times when you're little kids where that's what you want. You just want loads of information, you know, and there's the kind of books that give it to you. Just tons of information about the world, and it gives you a chance to ask questions and get told stuff. Which is scary, great, and Lowly Worm, a fantastic central character who is, I think, always silent and brilliant. Love him.
My number one isn't Lowly Worm. It is Jiminy Cricket.
Of course.
Specifically Jiminy Cricket from Disney's Pinocchio. And, you know, he is one of those characters which has sort of survived the film he was made for. And he is kind of made for the film. In the book, there is a cricket in it. He's not named Jiminy because it's, of course, a folksy American saying is what he's named after. In the book, there is a cricket who talks, but he sort of does have the same function, but is killed by Pinocchio at the start of the book as but in a quite a good kind of, you know, creepy fairy tale way. Is Pinocchio just snaps a mallet on him and crushes him, but then later on his ghost comes back, and so he gets to almost be a conscience in that way, to be like, you didn't really need to do that, did you? There was no need for to kill me. So he's just a talking cricket. But I think in a nice way, Disney has taken that and gone, oh right, well he's kind of correct. He's like a correcting character, and the idea that I really like the idea of having a conscience as a friend.
Yeah,
I think it's I think certainly for my own kind of moral character, I always kind of think of that kind of, you know, is it the right thing to do, and almost having a conversation with yourself about your own kind of morals and your choices, I think is quite a nice idea, and probably bettered by Disney as often it might be. Like it's a really great idea as a personification of a conscience is a really good one. And again, that character has you know, is now a sort of Disney part of the Disney stable, and appears in merchandise and shows up in other things. He gets to be When You Wish Upon a Star as well. He gets to sing the
big song,
one of the big songs in it.
It's kind of it's the sort of national anthem of Disneyland, isn't it? When You Wish Upon a Star.
Yeah,
it plays
over
the logo and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's he's my number one. I think that film is one of my favorite films easily. It's in kind of probably my top 10. I think it's the height of Disney. I think it's the one where you look at and there's not, I mean, it's in this sort of Academy ratio, so it is the sort of 4:3 square. But you can look at any bit of that screen, and there's no shortcuts. It almost looks like everything's animated or painted, and it's all beautiful, and it moves, and you can take Pinocchio and be like, this is where like they really are, like. I mean, they're obviously trying to do it. Like something like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is such an impressive film, and they all are in that very early era, and yet it's almost the sort of height of it, of just craft, I think, is like Pinocchio as well, where you could take a little square of any bit of the screen, and there's something going on. There's probably something animated, and if it isn't, it's beautiful painting. I think that's an incredible film, Pinocchio. And I think it had such an effect on me, I think, as a kid.
The character of Jiminy Cricket to me is a very you sort of Hollywoody sort of man. You know what I mean? Like it's the kind of guy. Like, do you know who does the voice?
I did know. I looked it up, but it was one of those. It's one of those guys.
It's not a big actor.
It's one of the guys who has been. No, it's not a big actor, but he's one of those voice guys who's like, you know, he's like a classic voice guy.
But it has the feeling of like a classic Hollywood sort of film star. You know what I mean? It could be It's a Wonderful Life. It could be a, you know,
I mean, it's
a Hitchcock or something.
Americana.
Yeah.
kind of version of it for sure.
Yeah.
In a kind of European, weird pan-European. Where's this set?
Yeah.
With lots of kind of, but he's like a kind of, I guess he's sort of the audience as well.
Yeah.
He's the audience watching it.
I haven't watched that in a long
That's my
time.
number one.
I'll try and convince the kids to watch it, but I can't tell them it's
Scary
not
one.
scary. They're like, they
Oh,
don't want to
man.
watch any films because they think they're scary, and then they ask me like, "Is it a scary one?" And I can't look at them in the eye and be like, "Nope, Pinocchio's not a scary film." There's just no way I can tell them that.
Mild to extreme peril.
Yeah, that's because I think there's extreme peril in that.
There's some extreme peril in Pinocchio. Great movie there.
Top notch. Good number one. I got some other ones. So I almost had Termites from Mars, which is it's an episode of Woody Woodpecker from the 50s, right? 1952. You can find it on YouTube. Termites from Mars. And it came up in my brain because I was looking down the list of invertebrates. And it was like ants, termites. And I was like, oh, where have I seen these amazing termites? And it's a Martian invasion, right? And everyone on Earth's going crazy. The Martians are invading. They've looked. This guy in the observatory has looked up and he's seen all these spaceships leaving Mars and heading down to Earth. Anyway, when everyone goes crazy, when they land on Earth, the spaceships are like 10 centimeters tall, and out of them get all these Martian termites, and they're little green guys with jagged mouths, tiny, and they like parachute out of the spaceships and just start eating all the wood in Woody Woodpecker's house. And it's a fantastic cartoon. Like they're eating up his whole house because he freaks out like termites. Freaks out. Then he covers everything in the woods with termite tape, sticky termite tape, and they all stick to it. And then he makes his own business with termites that he's using for like can openers, pencil sharpeners, and the last shot of the cartoon is him playing a record using the termite's spiky tail as the needle on the end of the tone arm, and the termite's mouth opens up and out comes the sound of the record. So that, I think that's one of the reasons why it stuck in my head. But they're just fantastic.
Termites are a real gift to people making cartoons between the 40s and the 70s. They were like, oh, we got to have like a termites one. That was like a big deal.
Every American cartoon growing up had termites in it, and I'd be like, I have no idea what that is. Termites everywhere. Absolutely huge. Atom ant you mentioned. Another ant is Pants Ant. You remember the Woodrow Phoenix character from Sugar Buzz?
Of course.
Shout out to Woodrow Phoenix. That's a great one. That's like a love letter to 50s, cartoon characters as well. I do think like insects really do go well for cartoon characters and stuff. They don't get much love in other areas of fiction, but cartoons, definitely. I got Anansi, the Spider-Man from West African and Caribbean sort of folklore.
Yeah,
had all those stories. Great.
Told.
Yeah,
me too. At school, yeah,
at school and school, and we used to have like a tape of Anansi stories and stuff. And I really like that kind of oral tradition passed down thing where every country, every region will have their slightly different version of the story, so they've got Anansi stories in Jamaica that are different from the West African ones, and because they've adapted them and made them relevant, and they changed the flora and fauna that take up parts of the story to match with their things, and then you get Southern United States ones, but again the story's been carried across another sea and changed, and it's a fantastic.
But even all those things I find, and I like how all those characters are kind of the same character in different cultures. I love all that stuff. I find it fascinating. All those kind of Brer Rabbit-y type things are kind of like I think some of them are the same story, like as a kid, and like it's one of those things that no one actually gives you a proper explanation for, but you go, this story is the same as one of the Anansi stories, right?
You have Anansi,
it's the same story.
You have Brer Rabbit, and then you'll have Loki, and you'll have Pan or something.
Coyote.
All these guys are doing the same thing. These lords of mischief, these lords of and storytellers and stuff. It's great. And Anansi as well. It can be literally a spider, can be just a man, Could be a man with a spider's head or 8 legs.
I
Or
think as a kid as well, we always knew him as Anansi the Spider Man.
yeah,
And there was always that sense of like, Spider Man?
exactly.
Was it?
I definitely didn't put Spider-Man or Doctor Octopus or the Wasp or Ant-Man on my list
Oh,
because
no.
they all have
Oh,
they all
no.
have vertebrae. Very much, they all have backbones.
Yeah.
Superheroes have a particularly strong backbone, but another one that I don't think you can have is Cthulhu, the
Oh, yeah.
octopus-headed,
Yeah.
evil god or whatever he is, because I'm pretty sure he has a spine. He just has an octopus face.
I'm not sure about Cthulhu. I haven't read any H.P. Lovecraft. I only know of it through other things. But my understanding is that it's some sort of old ancient god. So whether it even has a corporeal form or not, I'm not sure. And my understanding is that he's just described various ways, and so there isn't a definitive. Almost like I think the idea is he's described to be almost indescribable.
Yeah.
So you can't even imagine what it looks like. But basically, sort of a bit like an octopus. But you can't imagine it.
Yeah.
You can't imagine. It'd blow your mind if you saw it. A bit like an octopus. That's how I kind of. I mean, if anything, that was me reading from a passage of H.P. Lovecraft.
That's how he writes. Yeah, famous.
That's how he writes. Yeah, that's how he writes.
That's how he made all those hit records. Pepe the King Prawn, who turned up on our honourable mentions for the Muppets, for the Puppets one. Pepe the King Prawn is a top prawn, fictional prawn.
It is good. It is good.
And Jacques, the cleaner shrimp from Finding Nemo. Do you remember him? In the dentist's office at the end where they have the fish tank.
Yes.
And he comes out and he cleans up Nemo and then shuts himself back in his cave.
About worms, I remembered the Langton worm. Did you know that rhyme about the Langton worm?
No.
I don't know if this particularly northern thing, but it's an idea of it's like a kind of a knight has to go and visit the Langton worm, but no one can beat it. It will just like crush you. You can't kill it. If you cut it, it will go back together. It's like impossible to kill. And it will just eventually, as much as you hit it and try and cut it up, it's fine. It will just go back together. And it will just go around you eventually and crush you. No one can do it. So eventually a guy says, I'll come to your village, and if you give me so much money, I'll kill the Langton worm. And they go, you won't do it. You won't be able to kill the Langton worm. And what he does is he fashions his armor with spikes on. And every time the worm tries to do it, he's getting spiked. And then he takes the fight to the stream. And then when he cuts bits off the worm, it gets washed away in the tide. Great story. Langton worm.
I don't know the Langton
worm.
Out.
Check it out, kids.
I'll check that one out.
Check it out. Good worm. Great worm.
Good worm.
Although baddie worm, not a great guy.
I've got two snails. Worm. 2 snails for you. I've got the racing snail from Neverending Story, as piloted by Deep Roy.
Yeah, very close to being on my list, but I realised I was more interested in the pilot than
the snail himself doesn't get to do that much, really, does he?
But it's great that it goes fast. It's a fun
idea. Yeah, and Brian the snail from Magic Roundabout. We've been criticised in the past for missing out on Magic Roundabout opportunities.
I think we've given them honourable mentions in a kind of, but sure, absolutely.
Brian the snail is quite a good one. I've got to shout out some Pokemon as well. Got Scyther, who's like a sort of cricket grasshopper type thing. Cool, one of the original 151, but then his evolved form from the second batch of Pokemon is Scizor, who's all like red and metal and has like pincers. That's cool. I don't know if he's an invertebrate because probably he's like stands on his back legs, so I don't know. But he's based on an invertebrate. And Octillery, which is one of the, now they have a number of octopus-based Pokemon, but he was the first, and he's good. And he evolves from a fish, which is weird. Why would a fish turn into an octopus?
So, is he a fish Pokemon first?
Yeah.
Was he originally a fish Pokemon and then evolves into?
Yeah. Okay. But that looks nothing like it and changes color. I think they dropped the ball with that one a bit as evolutions go.
Do any of them become invertebrates? So like that, I guess.
Yeah,
so
I guess the fish does. Yeah, he's a fish and then he becomes an octopus. I never really understood that one. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. I'm sure somebody will tell me. But the there's also obviously quite a lot of invertebrates in you. There's almost 1,000 Pokemon now, so he's way up there.
Yeah.
Pokemon for people
150 or more to see.
There's 900 and whatever. Yeah.
Wow.
Something now. I think is that most of my ones? Yeah, you got any more?
No, I sort of had a few, but like I really nailed it down. I think I really got down to my top 5. And I was like very happy with my top 5 when I hit it.
Yeah, it's good.
I was like, yeah, that's it. Locked in.
I'm very pleased to have had a worm in mind. I think I could have had all spiders. Like you could do top 5 spiders and include Spider-Man and stuff. You know, sort of anything with spider in the title. Yeah. Possibly even a Ferrari spider. You know, there's lots of cars you could have. Yeah, you know, there's. But yeah, I think a worm I'm glad to have. 2 spiders, caterpillar, moth. It's good. It's not your average things to get love.
Mm-hmm. Do you think your 4-year-old will be pleased with this one?
No, I don't think she will, because I've only included one character that she knows. She knows Lowly Worm, but she doesn't watch Bug's Life because it's a film, so it'll be scary.
Okay.
I don't know. It's not very scary, is it?
I think you might be all right. I don't know. I guess it's length of time, right?
It's the music. It's the music that does it. I just want to watch kids' films with my kids. Is that too much to ask?
Maybe you should start playing some perilous music, just the music, in sort of around the house.
I do.
So they get used to the idea.
I do.
Okay.
They asked me to take it off.
Okay.
I don't know what the answer is.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Maybe I need to give them some sleeping pills or something first. You know what
Doesn't
I mean?
sound like a good
plan.
Sedate
them so they can't get too worried. Just like, oh, what's this? Looks okay, it's good. Can I go to sleep?
Fine.
No, you can't go to sleep. You got to watch.
You got to watch a film.
You got to watch
a kids' film with me.
Yeah. You got to watch Mothra versus Godzilla.
Weirdly, a film which isn't remotely scary.
No, not at all. They just find that sort of boring, probably. Funny and then boring.
Yeah.
Let us know your favourite fictional invertebrates. You can let us know your favourite real invertebrates as well. It should be octopus because they're far and away the best invertebrate. But you know,
I'm sure you've all got your own top 5 fictional invertebrates.
Yeah, you will have. This is the sort of thing you'll all have to hand, I'm sure.
Yeah, but you've already been writing these down, so this is an easy one for you to just dig out the list you've already got, perhaps pinned to the fridge that you occasionally alter, and see who comes in and out of the top 5. But you've all got them. You know, you all have them somewhere.
Give us a comment.
Give us a review.
You can give us a review on iTunes. We like the reviews on there. They're good. Very nice. Must be the end of the episode because I'm starting to cough.
And that's all from me. Is that all from you?
Yeah, because I'm on a coughing fit. See you later, invertebrate fans.